Hello, everybody. My name is Diana Andone. I'm the director of the e-learning center in the Politehnica University of Timișoara, Romania. And this open lecture is part of the E.I.N.S open lecture series. I will start now and present what this open E.I.N.S lecture series mean for just a few moments, and then I will introduce my fellow guests for tonight. So the Open Technologies and Innovation is the first open lecture series which we are presenting today. Is the second one. The last one was last week and quite a successful one. They are part of the E.I.N.S, which is the European Universities Alliances between 9 universities at this moment. And the project name is E.I.N.S Entrepreneurship and Innovation Network for Smart and Sustainable European Regions. It's funded by the European Union through the European Institute of Innovation and Technology and the section Raw Materials. So all of these open lecture series are part of this project, which is looking more or less on how we can empower innovators and entrepreneurs to develop world-class solutions for all the challenges and also to include the growth and the scale jobs. There are several actions run by the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, and you can follow all of them in the EIT website. E.I.N.S, this project is looking specifically for our regions, the regions from where the 7 partners of this project are coming, and the Timiș region from where we are locating now in Romania is part of that region. We are partners from different countries. There is Fachhochschule St. Pölten from Austria, Polytechnical Institute of Setúbal from Portugal, the Hungarian University of Agriculture and Life Sciences from Hungary, the University College from Leuven-Limburg from Belgium, us, the Polytechnical University of Timișoara from Romania, the Fachhochschule, the Technical University from E.I.N.S, which is from Latvia, and then also the University Industry Innovation Network from the Netherlands. So we are all partners in this project, and we are looking more or less on how to build up the innovators, which are entrepreneurship, also who are looking at education, and they're also innovators. So we are trying to bridge somehow the education side with the community around us, with the stakeholders from our region, and to look how we can provide expertise and resources for a smart and sustainable region. So all of these open lectures are basically looking at this, and I will now start presenting my colleagues, which are with me now online, both of them coming from the Polytechnica University of Timișoara. So I will start first with the first speaker, which is they're both senior lecturers, associate professors in the Polytechnica University of Timișoara. And the first one is Andrei Ternauciuc, who is now going to speak about open technologies and innovation. And he's a senior lecturer in the Electronics and Telecommunications faculty and also a member of the e-learning community and center. And then it's going to be by Associate Professor Silviu Vert from the same faculty, the Faculty of Electronics and Telecommunications and Information Technologies. And he's also working with us in the e-learning center. They both have more than 15 years of experience in open education, open innovation, and also on new technologies and their involvement in innovation. I will need to say that Silviu has also extensive entrepreneurial expertise, and he's also teaching subjects in the area of entrepreneurship, while Andrei has extensive experience on software developing using open source technologies. So I will start now asking Andrei first to start doing his presentation.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you, everybody for being present here. Today's discussion is about open technologies and innovation. We'll start by discussing what open technology means, but first let's clarify what open means, because any concept needs to be balanced by its opposite, black and white, dark and light, 1 and 0, open and closed. What does it mean, open? It means that it can be accessible to everybody or to a large portion of people, opposed to close, which needs some kind of validation or verification. Of course, today's topic is open software, which is a subset of open. When we speak about open software, we mean software which can be accessed or used or in any way integrated in our daily lives or work by either directly without any impediment or with a minimum interaction or a minimum effort from our part. When we speak about open software, we mean usually we either mean open source or open access. We will discuss some things about open source software. We will dispel some myths about it. We will discuss free and libre open source software, which is a bit different, and we'll see in which way. Also, we will discuss Creative Commons, which is the most well-known set of licensing when it comes to software. For instance, when we talk about open access, I give you here an example of 2 of our platforms which we manage, we developed and continually maintain. For instance, we have the virtual campus, which is our university's official e-learning solution used by all our students and teachers, which is based on the open source Moodle learning management system. However, it is closed access because all of the students can only access all of the courses or the areas where the university staff allows them to do this. In contrast, the Unicampus platform, which also developed, also hosts courses which users can access, our students or anybody else. However, the access is open. Anybody can create an account. Of course, we need an account because we need to have a little privacy. An email address which is accessible by everyone is not very useful at all. Therefore, a username and password is required. This is a very simple example showing that open access has, of course, its limitations. Now, I would ask my colleague if she could start the Menti question. Please, everybody answer the question, which I hope Diana can put in the chat. I would ask you to give a few examples of open technologies that you use in daily activities. Please concentrate on those software solutions which you are certain that are open. For instance, a software like Microsoft Office, which you pay a subscription or you access via your institutional account or a Google account, or what if you have Google Workspace, that doesn't qualify. So please give examples of these types of software or open technologies that you use daily. You can find the link in the chat, so please go to the URL, or if you want, you can go on the phone and input the code and complete your answers there. I will give you 2 minutes to do this.
Now, all of you, you can go on menti.com with the code 49629954, or with that link, and try to give a few examples of open technologies you use in your daily activities. The link is also in the chat, and also the possibility, so you are able to do that. Please try to see. We already have 2 or 3 answers, but we need some more. We have 118 participants now. Please try to go online, and the link is again in the chat. And you are able to answer to it. And we will look, and the link is everywhere. So you are able to see it again.
Maybe one more minute, and then Diana, maybe you could show us the results.
Yes, I will. So please answer to the question. I would kindly ask everybody to answer in Menti, not in the chat if it's possible. I'll post again the link, so it's much more easier for you. And we already have 11 people for an answer, but let's wait for another at least 15. And then we are going to show the results. And, now we have 15, so let's share and see the results of this. And Andrei, please comment on them.
Okay, so we have Linux, which is the most popular open source based solution for operating systems. Campus, WordPress is there, WordWall. There are many here who indeed are open. However, I see some which are not strictly open. For instance, Facebook, even if it can be accessed without paying a fee, for instance, it is not usually considered open, especially since all of the use is used by Facebook, by Meta, the company behind Facebook, to adjust their advertisements, so in commercial purposes. We see here Moodle, Google Classroom, also Google Solutions are usually as well not considered strictly open. We will discuss LinkedIn as well. It's a social network for Android and Windows. Windows especially, it's not open actually at all, because you need to pay a fee in order to use it. Android, even though if it is free, actually the manufacturer of the phones pay a licensing to Google. However, many of the answers you put there are included in this category of open technologies. So you have, most of you have a general idea what open technologies mean. Hopefully, by discussing a bit further, you will clarify some of these concepts. So Diana, I will continue sharing my own screen. So usually, when we talk about open software, the first thing that comes into our minds is open source software, which many of you, especially those of you who are active in the IT area, are familiar with. However, there are a few misconceptions about it, so we could try to learn a bit about it and also dispel some of these misconceptions. First of all, we have, is the access to the software source code allowed by this type of software? Is it free to use from the point of view of paying money to use it? Is there no license involved in using it? Is there a cost to developing open source software or not? And is there a way to make a profit out of this? Well, the answer to all of these questions are the one as follows. The name of open source software says that we can access the source code of the software, so it is open source. That's what open source means. We can check the source code of any web page or even a desktop application if it is open source software. However, not all open source software is free to use. There are some cases where we can access the source code, but we still need to pay a fee in order to use it. There is a license because open source software if it is labeled as such, it has this open source software license. There are the general public license, which usually applies from GNU, for instance. Are there costs for development? Of course, there are costs, because all of the man hours that developers put into creating this software comes from somewhere. There is a practice from big development, software development firms to license some of their products in this manner, as open source, for a list of reasons. For instance, the community behind that software can contribute with code or with improvements, or even with testing that software. So the developers who work on it are getting paid. They can make a living of it, but the software itself can be, of course, always improved. And also the profits, even though usually open source software cannot be resold, there are services, for instance, training services or improvement or developing upon that open source by the main developers, the ones who created the software, who can adjust it to the requirements of a client who is willing to pay for it. So all of these misconceptions are hopefully now better understood. Other types of licensing are the free or libre open source software. The free in this name of licensing means that you have freedom in using it and changing it. However, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's free as in you don't need to pay for it. Same way as open source software. It extends but differs from the open source software, and you have here a link that you can access and maybe learn a bit more about the free and open source software, which is, as I said, different. The Creative Commons is actually one of the most common types of licensing. They are usually heard of as opposed to the copyright licensing. Every CC or Creative Commons license allows to copy the work, distribute it, display it, and these are the common characteristics because we have different types of Creative Commons licenses. If you ever see this logo on a web page or even in a presentation or in a video, by analyzing the components, you can see what are the restrictions. For instance, the last one means that you cannot use in any commercial way. The lack of this icon means that you could theoretically use it in a commercial way if this is something that you desire. Mainly open source software, as I said, means that you can access the source code of the software. There are repositories where the source code of popular software is stored. Maybe the most popular one is GitHub. You can see here that in regards to Moodle, you find a lot of repositories, many of them which are provided by the main developers. However, anybody can create a fork, is called the process of improving in a different way a base software. Other popular code repositories are presented here for those of you who are inclined to access and are interested in this this subject. Of course, we can talk about open education. Open education has a series of different aspects. For instance, a federated login, meaning that using your university or institutional credentials, you can access some other network or some other services in another part of the world. And I gave here an example of EduGain. Many of you, for instance, who are from Romania, have heard of RoEdu, which is the official institutional network providing an identity to use in your online presence. EduGain is the international network of which RoEdu is a part of, so you can use your institutional credentials in a partner university. OpenID is a standard which is being developed and continuously improved, allowing the interconnection of different systems, of different technologies. For instance, if you go to a website which requires you to log in or sign up, many times you find there that a button which allows you to log in with your Facebook account or your Google account, and that technology is based on this OpenID protocol. When we talk about open education, we also talk about assessment, meaning that any educator can use a lot of tools which are freely available online. And I gave here a few of these examples. And also the student integrated services is a technology actively used to interconnect the different parts of not necessarily university, but all aspects of the learning process, all levels, to integrate the different parts, for instance, the grades of a student, the official ones, with another system like a learning management system, like an LMS. Speaking of LMSs, open education also usually means online courses. There are a lot of open source learning management systems, and a few of them are here in this list, are listed here. Moodle is arguably the most popular open source. If we look at the number of users, there are almost 400 million users, official ones, on their website. Also, aside from these learning management systems, which are usually self-hosted and cared for by a technical team, there are also MOOC platforms, massive open online courses, which are freely available. And you have here a list of examples of platforms which provide courses free of use, anybody can access and hopefully finish, with a wide variety of subjects to choose from. We'll now get to the second question in Menti. Please go again to the same address where Diana will hopefully activate the second question. This one provides you with a list of massive open online courses, platforms, and you are asked to choose from those options which have you used at any point up until now, if any, of course. Again, a few minutes for your answers. Again, the link is in the chat, so please go to menti.com and use the same code 49629954, or just use the link in the chat and try to answer. I will ask again, Diana, whenever we have enough results to show them to us.
Yes, we are quite close to have a good result. So I'll share the screen now to see some of the results and we can comment on them. So it's quite clear that we have Canvas and Coursera leading, which is quite surprising. I was expecting probably a bit more of Udacity or edX. And nothing from my University of Myriada. There are several courses, especially on diversity, which are made and financed by European Union, and they have very good quality. And Myriada, obviously, it's for the Spanish and Portuguese community, because the majority of the courses are in Spanish and Portuguese. But you can find also some other courses in other languages. We'll still give another 1 or 2 minutes. I'm very surprised by Canvas. I need to say that I was expecting Coursera, Future Learn, and edX to lead.
That's what I was going to say. The results of this poll showing that Canvas among our audience is the most popular result is surprising to me as well. But this stands to prove that technology, especially internet technology, is ever-changing. It's very dynamic, and probably the last time I checked the official statistics, the the top MOOC provider were different. So it's ever changing probably. Or we have a subset of users who have heard more about Canvas. But either way, the results are interesting and relevant, as I like to say.
Yeah, we have one which answered diversity now. We still have some people answering, so I will keep the Menti open, and you will be able to answer to all of this. I will need to say again, to repeat the rules of this open lecture. You need to be actively participate also in the Menti and stay in the Zoom. And at the end of the Zoom, after both presentations and a Q&A session, we will have a small quiz where you will need to answer with your IDs, with as you entered when you register in this Zoom webinar, and then based on those who have answered to that quiz, you will receive the open certificate, the open badge for these open lectures. And if you will do all 8 open lectures, then you will be able to get another certificate, which will be stackable, which in fact will prove that you attended all 8 open lectures. So I will stop the share now because we have quite interesting question, result. Still, Canvas is leading, surprisingly, but it's still leading. So please.
Thank you, Dana. We have a short while left to go. All of these things which were discussed previously about open source software are also officially consigned in the European Commission strategy for open source software for the following years. You can find here the whole strategy if you are curious. However, the 6th guiding principle to this strategy is to think open, to be open to transformation, to share knowledge and practices, to contribute in any way you can, to have a secure experience, this is also important, and of course to stay in control, especially of your own data, which is the main focus of GDPR, for instance. So there is interest from the governing officials who have created this strategy. As you well know, the European Commission creates these guidelines which then provide the basis for national legislation of all the partners of the members of the European Union. So this is important. So open source software is an area of interest to the legislative and the official governing bodies of the European Union, and of course to all the other developed nations, obviously. I would like also to now present an initiative called Open EdTech. It was started by the developers behind Moodle. However, they co-opted the expertise of pedagogical experts in the field, mainly in Europe, but not only. And it has some very good ideas. And this initiative aims to implement all of the theoretical aspects of open source software and all of the benefits which come with it into a platform by using all of these things that we have learned over the years in education. If you want to learn more, you can go to this address and see more information about this initiative. And finally, if you look to the title of this presentation, it ends with innovation. So what about innovation? Well, the main part of the open source or open technology discussion so far was that by being open, a community is created behind all of these technologies, all of these learning management systems. So, for instance, if you go to this address and check some of the real-time statistics there, you can find that, for instance, in these 4 examples, open source technologies are the most used. If you look at the web servers, which are run by serving all of the web pages available on the World Wide Web right now, Nginx and Apache are the two most popular, and they are both open source. If we look at the operating system on the server, 4/5 of servers use a Unix-based system, as opposed to the Windows server solutions. Then if we look at content management systems, we can see that WordPress actually powers 43% of all websites in existence at the moment. So almost half of all the websites we visit every day, almost half of them use WordPress, which is an open source content management system, freely available and usable by anybody. If we look into this list, we can find also other solutions which are open source and developed and sustained by a community. Also, some more technical aspects, for instance, JavaScript libraries, which are omnipresent in today's modern internet. The most popular one by far is jQuery, which as well has this open source licensing system. So the community behind open source technology is very important. It's the engine that drives it forward. And why is it innovative? Because all of these solutions, all of these technologies were at one point an idea. And that idea flourished and thrived with the help of the community behind it. So open source, in my opinion, is very important. It drives innovation, maybe even more than intellectual property does so. Of course, this can be debated. So this is my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. I will hopefully answer some of your questions in the chat or in the Q&A, but I will leave a little bit of time to my colleague to present his ideas as well.
Let's start a tiny bit of questions. You have a first comment in the chat, and I will kindly ask you to answer to that comment.
Verbally?
Yes, obviously.
Okay. So the question is, I think everybody sees it, but I think there's a balance between open source number of users profits and paid solution number of users profits. Somehow, even if most websites use WordPress, web designers are still getting paid. You can also buy templates and so on. Yes, it's a very good observation. It was also covered in those misconceptions about open source software, because it was stated there that the idea that there is no profit in open source is false. There are, of course, services which are provided by the developers, but not the original developers. Anybody who has some knowledge of web development can install in a few minutes a new website using WordPress, can install free or paid for extensions, and can have a proper website, because WordPress in its raw form is usually not that appropriate to have a website. So each of those billions of websites which use WordPress are customized. They need to be different, and somebody with technical knowledge is behind it, and usually most of them get paid for this. But it is a good observation. Thank you.
It is indeed. Now, thank you very much, Andrei, for your presentation about open technologies and what's their input into the innovation and how they can be used not only in education sector but all of them. And let's welcome now Silviu, and I will kindly ask Silviu to start his presentation. Silviu Vert, again, associate professor in our university, and he's going to speak more about open data and open science. Please.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you for the invitation, and good evening to everyone. I'm going to share my presentation, and I would like you to confirm that everything is okay. Let's see. Good. Can you see it? Can you hear me?
Yes,
all
perfect.
good.
Please.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to speak about open science and open data, and I'm going to go straight to the subject and start with open science. And I'm pretty sure that this term open science is a little bit, at least, familiar to all of you. It's not an open term. However, UNESCO just gave a recommendation 1 year ago in 2021 detailing on some aspects of open science. And basically, because it has a longer description and definition, but basically it's about us sharing the ways and the results of the research and the science that we are doing, so others can add to it, collaborate, reuse, remix, and build on it openly. What does open science mean? What aspects do we look at? We look at open access to publication, so without needing to bypass paywalls or pay for having access to research. We look at open data that we'll get into detail a little bit later. We will look at open source software that Andre already told you about, open hardware, open evaluation, open educational resources, a term that you are already familiar to it, and generally talking about openness regarding scholarly knowledge. Open science is something that is valued a lot in by the European Union and is put forward, especially, but also in their financing programs like Horizon 2020, which we will speak about in a minute. And let me tell you what are the 8 ambitions of the European Union regarding open science, which can give you some more clues about what this is, what I'm speaking of. So we are talking about, first of all, about open data, that we publish data that is open and that is fair. Fair meaning findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable data. Mainly, we are talking about databases and data that we are gathering while we are doing research. It's not sufficient. Why all 4 of these characteristics? Because it's not sufficient that we publish data that we gathered as a scanned PDF, for example. It's easy for others to find it. It may be easy for others to read it, but it's not machine readable. So I can't put it in an Excel and process it further. So this data needs to have some kind of characteristics. So it's from a legal point of view, able to read and process the data, but also from a machine point of view. Another very important aspect is the European Open Science Cloud, which is a repository for all open science things of the European Union. I recommend that you go and look, search on Google for the European Open Science Cloud, take a look at the platform and see all the kinds of data that is already published there from European funded projects and not only, and see that you can download that data, reuse it, remix it, process it, and use it in your own research. So you are not so you don't need to do that research again to gather the same data. What we also need is to think of new generation metrics. That is because all the old way of doing science, which we are still doing, let's call it closed science, has some type of metrics that are not really good for this new type of science, for the open science, because open science means sharing freely all the methodology and all the data that you are using. So you can't use the same factors for assessing the data as we used to do before. Also, open science means that scientific literature, peer-reviewed scientific publications are freely accessible, and we can read them and use them and cite them in our own works without us needing to pay them directly or through a paywall. This means also early sharing of research data, not only at the end of the research. Also, what the European Union is recommending is that when we researchers are evaluated in our career, is that the universities and the institutions that employ us put a price on the fact that we are doing open science activities, which is not that valued at this moment. And we will see in the next slides in an open survey that was did 2 years ago. Also, what is very important from an open science policy point of view is that we involve the simple citizen in what we are doing. And citizen becomes a scientist, and he is able to contribute to science from the same level as we do, of course, if he has all the scientific knowledge that is required, and that we empower him or her to do that. Also important is that research follows integrity principles and is reproducible. So if one does a research and we do exactly what was described in the research paper regarding methodology and everything, is that we obtain the same results. And not least, education and skills, because it's clear that very few of us have all the skills, all the knowledge needed to be able to know how to publish the data as open data and fair data early in the research process, also at the end, to manage the data, to publish open access, and so on. These are all terms that are pretty new to most of us, and we need education and to gain skills in this area. And the European Union is committed to financing and investing in this kind of issues. Now, where do we stand? You might be asking. The European University Alliance did an open science survey approximately 2 years ago. It received close to 300 answers from 36 European countries. Most of the answers came from comprehensive institutions. Respondents were asked, how do they see open science? How do they see the importance of open science in their own institutions' strategic priority areas? So do the institutions prioritize or not? And the survey found out that the importance given to open science was high or very high, more than 50% together. However, when they measured if these open science principles are actually implemented, they found that there was a little bit of a disconnection between the importance, the stated importance, and the level of implementation. If you look closely to this graphic, you can see that implementation is very close or pretty close to the stated importance when we talk about, for example, open education, that we know the term very well, when we talk about science outreach and communication. But it's further away when we talk about fair data, when we talk about data sharing, and when we talk about open research protocols, for example. So this means we have to close the gap in these areas, mostly regarding data, where probably we don't have too much skills and knowledge in order to do it properly. What the survey also measured was how many of these open science principles and aspects are included in career evaluation, in academic assessments of the researchers. And they found out that, for example, publishing open access or publishing freely the research literature was evaluated in a lot of institutions. But for example, other aspects such as publishing in preprints or involving citizens for the community in the science research projects that you are doing, or using open collaborative tools or open research protocols, is not that used. 34% of the surveyed institutions said that they don't use any kind of open science elements in their academic assessment, but 56% of the institutions, they said that they are planning to expand the use of the open science activities. This research, as I said, was planned and conducted by the European University Alliance, and it ended with some recommendations. That is to create the conditions to mainstream open science. So for every kind of research, researcher, for this to be the default way of doing things. They also recommended that institutions invest in embedding open science in policies and practices. So it's something that is written down and hopefully well known by all the researchers employed at the institutions and is valued. And of course, integrating open science elements in rewards and incentive practices. So people feel incentivized and they feel motivated to use all those kinds of elements in their day-to-day science practice. Next, I'm going to talk a little bit about open data, which, as you've seen, is fundamental to open science, is one of the core aspects of open science, but it's one of the aspects that is not so well understood and where we need to make some bigger steps in the future. So generally speaking, if we talk about open knowledge, not necessarily about data, this is content, information, or data. There are some differences between these terms that people are free to use, reuse, and distribute without any limitations. This is a very important definition by the Open Knowledge Foundation, and it's used by other institutions and UNESCO as well. And when we talk about open data, I invite you to look a little bit on the right of your screen, and you can see there, hopefully, that open data is somewhere at the intersection of publicly available data and government data. However, it does not intersect with private data. So when we talk about publishing data as open data, we don't talk about publishing personal information of people that can identify them, but we talk about publishing government data mainly. That's the most widely used category or domain that open data is known as. So if you think a little bit about open government data, think about data about the traffic, think about data about energy consumption, about the general movement of people in a town, about health issues, about money issues, everything that can affect a community, about education, about culture. And this kind of open data is measured through the limitations or possibilities that you can have. The most well-known type of licenses that Andrei already mentioned, the Creative Commons licenses, have multiple aspects or facets. Attribution, requiring to attribute the person or the institution that generated it. No derivative works, so don't make works that derive from the primary work. Share alike, keep the license, the same license. Or non-commercial, don't use commercially. And this can be combined. Open data, basically, the most well-known definition combination of these limitations is that it's share alike and attribution. So attribution to be able to say who did it, to acknowledge the person or the institution who did published, created the data, and sometimes share alike. In order to preserve this license, so nobody takes the data and puts, for example, says, okay, no derivative works or non-commercial to it. But the best kind of open data that exists is Creative Commons 0 that you don't see on this slide, but this 0 means it doesn't have any limitations. You are not required to share alike. You can use it commercially. You can make derivative works, and you don't necessarily have to attribute. So please take this into, keep this in mind when you have to fill in the quiz at the end about what is the best type of open data, which is Creative Commons 0. And now, because I gave you some examples of data, and because I told you what open data is, I kindly invite you to answer to a Menti question that we've prepared for you. And this is to give examples of open data that you already used in your teaching or research activities. That you gave examples of, that you used to build upon, that you remixed, that you shared with your students, and so on. Please go to menti.com, use the code that you see on the screen, or just click the link that my colleagues put in the chat box. And I'm eager to see your answers. We will take a minute or two for you to be able to fill in the question. Diana, I think you're the best person to tell us when you have enough answers to be able to comment on them.
We only have 12 answers, so I'm still waiting for some more answers. I kindly invite, we have 129 participants at this moment, so we need to have a higher number of activities. As I mentioned in these open lectures, we need to be more participants, so I mean more active participants. So please try to answer. Obviously, if you don't know or if you don't use any, you can say I don't use or I don't know or something like that. Even those will count. Let's see if we have some more answers to examples of open data that you have used in your teaching or research activities. I will be curious of any open data which you are aware of or you have been using it. And we have 18 answers, so let's share. Please stop, Sylvia, sharing.
Just a moment. Yes, I'm done.
So now I will be able to share. So at this moment, you are able, all of you, to see the results. Some of them in Romanian, so we can translate them.
Yes, that's what I also noticed. So we have, for example, someone used open data in his or her mathematics class today. I'm really curious if you can answer again to the question and write to us what kind of data you used for mathematics. Others have used Wikidata via Sparkle, which is very good. Congratulations. We have a very technical person here. Air quality data.
Guess who it is. I can guess who it is based on the list of attendees.
I can't yet. Air quality data, it's a very important part of open government data. Exactly. YouTube also has some videos are Creative Commons licensed, so yes. Data from data.gov.ro, the open government data of Romanian, health data from Gov from the US, perfect European statistics, yes, they are also open data. Data about COVID, the pandemic, transparency data. And someone used data from the COVID databases to generate a mathematical model of the system of multiplication and transmission of COVID. Yes, there are very interesting applications which are built upon open data. It's very important to say again that open data can be used and must be used commercially, because a lot of applications with a lot of value for the citizens were created this way. Some haven't used before, but I hope I sparked a little bit of interest. You also see traffic data. There is also data from didactic.ro, from other platforms, Eurostat, or even maps. Probably we are talking about, I forgot the name of the open source maps. Please help me.
The street view?
Yes, no, the street map.
Street map, yes, sorry.
Yes, yes.
We managed between us. It's late also after a long day for both of us.
Yes, so not Google Maps or other kind of maps. There are also there are platforms for open data for maps. Yes.
Also, almost everybody uses daily weather data. Maybe not in teaching, but
in teaching themselves. Yes, thank you very much. And we see a lot of technical terms here and technical platforms, which is very good.
Yeah, I can guess that's Nicolae Constantinescu. Nick Constantinescu is answering that. If it's you, please say that in chat. I'll really appreciate if I was able to guess who gave us the very scientific and very correct information about the use of open data. And thank you very much. Very good and very good results. I need to say I'm really surprised by the quality of our answers for this. So, Silvio?
Sparkopen.org. Yes, I can see that we are using a lot of open data, but what I want to invite you is to also publish the data that you are generating, that you are gathering through your research in open data repositories so that it's available for everyone as well. Let me share again the presentation. And let me go to the next slides. One of these categories of data is cultural data, and I'm talking about it because I'm going to give you some more examples of what we've did here in Romania, in Timișoara. Cultural data refers to a lot of aspects, so from historical cultural data sets to data sets regarding the art market, regarding maps of culture. We can talk about employment in the cultural field. We can talk about numbers regarding cultural participation, numbers and aspects, and public expenditure and culture, and so on. One of the most interesting and well-known projects regarding open cultural data is the European platform Europeana.eu, which aggregates and distributes a lot of open data from the open cultural field. And I'm going to tell you how we are using it in the next and final section of my presentation, which is University Polytechnica of Timișoara initiatives in culture, creative industries, and data. For example, some of the things that we've did a longer time ago, I think it was 2015, we built the Timișoara City Art application together with the E.I.N.S Foundation, well-known cultural foundation in Timișoara, and this mobile application could show tourists but also locals all the public monuments that one could see while walking through Timișoara, and the data are available as open data. This application and other applications, and I'm glad that Nick is here, because if I remember well, he also participated in what was, I think, the first open culture hackathon in Romania, which happened in Timișoara in 2015. It gathered several universities, cultural institutions, public institutions and private institutions, the Coalition for Open Data, and so on. And all these people and others that didn't fit in the photo gathered for a weekend in Timișoara. And these cultural institutions put forward data as open data, and they could use it to build some very interesting applications that were later used by the citizens. What we've also did was, in collaboration again with E.I.N.S Foundation and the ETSA Gallery, was build a platform, a website for the well-known artist Peter ETSA, where you can find around 100 sculptures with all their information. We are talking about meta information, the material, the year it was produced, where it was, the description, and so on, published as open data. And what is even more interesting is that this data was connected with the E.I.N.S platform that I talked with you about now, and other national art digital repositories, and is now available, and it was multiplied, its use is multiplied by doing this. The data is available, of course, as text images, but also as a virtual tour on the website. And I kindly ask my colleagues from time to time to put some links in the chat, so the ones that are curious can see more information about the platforms that I'm speaking about. Another website is the UPT Virtual Museum. Actually, it's a museum of mainly of information technologies, and we have a lot of exhibits presented on the website, and they are also available as openly, publicly available as information. The flagship project that we've talked about a lot in other occasions is the Spotlight Heritage Timișoara project under the frame of the Timișoara European Capital of Culture 2023 now. And it's actually a digital storytelling platform which encompasses a website, mobile applications with augmented and virtual reality, physical museographic exhibition, the National Museum of Banat street exhibition, and a lot of events that are happening around this platform. And what I want to highlight here is that all the information is published as Creative Commons cultural heritage data. All the information that you can find on the website, mobile applications, and all the other kinds of platforms, you are able to take that data and reuse it to create and to disseminate the information even more. And all this information is connected with the European platform, so it's even more well-known than only from the, it can be found even more easily. We are also doing each year an international Spotlight Heritage Student Contest where students compete and create all kinds of interesting applications. And we give these students, these participants, the data in raw format, and they can use it because it's licensed with Creative Commons to build other interesting applications that maybe we didn't think of before. Another very important project of us under the frame of the European Capital of Culture is the Digital and Data Timișoara 2023, because what we've noticed and other European capitals did is that information and all the data collected during the years of Capital of Culture and before tends to be forgotten and tends to be split in multiple repositories. And what we want to do is to have a unique platform that can integrate all this data, collect it, archive it, so it doesn't get lost and that it's easily findable and processable, and to be able to be indexed by Europeana and other repositories to be widely available. We've built this platform, which is of course only the institutions that organize events and that generate data for the European Capital of Culture can access it and publish it with multiple levels of access and reviewing. We use a backend with a familiar space where this data can be uploaded and processed, and which is published as open data afterwards. We also have, let's say, a visible front end for this platform where data can be seen in a very simple format, very simple way. But of course, from here it can be gathered, indexed by machines, by softwares, and published further. In all our actions, in all our what we do, we want to engage more and more with cultural and creative industries, and this is our target. We want to persuade them to adopt as many digital solutions as part of their cultural policy, and we show them what can be done in digital forms. We try to persuade them to consider publishing in an open data format in order to improve, to enrich this field, the environment, and for others to be able to reuse the data to create even more interesting things. And what we always want to do is that we link all this data to national and international repositories, so that is available as much as possible. Thank you for attending this, listening to this presentation. And I'm going to close now the PowerPoint. Diana?
Yes, so we are all now here. We also have some comments in the chat, which are very interesting and so on, and very well balanced. And we already put the links there. Please stay with us because we will have a quiz at the end, which is very important if you want to have the open badge and the certificate. And we have 2 questions now. And I will ask the first question, which is coming from Dorina Popescu. I agree that it is nice to have open science, but any research in science costs money. Who pays for science to be open? And we have an answer from Nick Constantinescu, which says usually the research is paid from public funding. And this is the very reason the research output has to return to those who pay, which is very correct. That's it is. That's the main encouragement of the open science and why open science have become so important for the European Union. I need to say that also part of the open science, because quite a lot of it is open access, and open access also to data is called fair use. So you don't need only to publish the final paper or the final results, you need to publish also the intermediate results and the data which you gather for making or gathering your results or your conclusions. So that's really at the bottom line of the open science. Silvia and Andre, if you want to add something more as a final comment to the open science, open data, and open technologies, and then we will run the quiz. I will have a question and answer. Do you think it's easy to use open technologies, open science, or open data? And what you see that the major challenge you personally you have on using it? Any of you?
I can begin. It is very convenient to find a platform. So let's take WordPress, for instance. We have a website which is readily available, and very easy, in a few steps, I can have a website which can follow my needs if I want a blog or even a shop to sell something. So this is very easy to access. It is difficult, however, to find the answers to very specific scenarios. So if you are not an expert in WordPress, then you would need to find either look for an answer. As I said, there is always a community behind it, which usually is very helpful. Or you need to hire somebody, you need to pay somebody who already has the answers and can provide the services you need. So using open source platform, open technologies or open data is quite easy. It's more difficult to create them. So as you already said, we need people who create, not only who consume data. So this is the most difficult part in my opinion.
Very good. Sylvia?
I would say that is not easy for the moment to use take into consideration all the open science principles and aspects. And it's mainly because we are not used to it. When we do research, let's give a very simple example. Maybe we have here teachers that are teaching in primary school, and they are measuring the height of flowers, for example, with their students. From this simple example to crunching very big data sets on machine learning and so on, we are used only to publishing our final results, the results, conclusions, recommendations, and so on. We are really not used to publish all the intermediary data that we used to get to that final point. So it's a thing of mentality, I would say, of the way of we are used to doing things. And but it's also a thing related to money. For example, when we want to publish open access, for example, it's very easy to just send the papers to an closed journal, as we are used to, because we know how it works and we don't have to pay anything, although it costs the readers to be able to access that information. It's a little more harder for us to think, okay, where can we fund this research, this publishing, in order to be able to publish it as open access. But there are more and more possibilities, and we just have to look for them.
Very good indeed. I think both solutions are possible. In fact, several solutions are possible at the same time. So for everybody now, we have a quiz which you need to answer. There are 2 questions, both of them multiple choice. They're available now online on Zoom. Please answer them. If you're on your mobile phone, please go to the quiz part of it. If it doesn't automatically open, we don't have yet anybody answering to it. Please try to answer to them. And yes, we already have one, so we already know it's working. There are multiple choices, so not only one answer is correct. I give you a hint on this. So you need to select both answers which are correct for each of the questions to be able to get the open badge at the end. Both questions have been presented and introduced here and mentioned several times. And first one refers to Andrei's presentation, the second one refers to Silvia's presentation. So please try to answer to them. We already have 29 going to 30 answers, so that's very good. As I said, we have at this moment 122 participants in this open lectures. Attendees, please, as many as you can, please answer to this quiz. The quiz is essential if you want the open badge, the open certificate for this open lecture. If not, obviously you have gained quite a lot from learning about it, but you will not receive the open certificate because the evaluation at the end is compulsory for receiving the open certificate. So please answer to the questions. I will still keep them available for another 2 minutes. Until then, I will just mention again that this was the E.I.N.S open lectures second open lecture, part of the E.I.N.S open lecture series, which are developed by the E.I.N.S, which is the E.I.N.S European University Alliance, funded by the European Innovation and Technology Institute. And it's basically looking at how we can improve entrepreneurship, innovation in our smart and become our region more smart and sustainable. So we will have another 6 open lectures. The next one is just in about 2 weeks. They are not weekly. They are depending a lot on our schedules and of our partner schedules. And you can follow all of them online on our website. And I will put again the website where you can find all of this information, which is the E.I.N.S website. And I will put that in the chat. So you will be able to have the information there. Please follow them. Obviously, everybody who has attended this one will receive information about the next one, the third one. And I need to say that the third one is going to look more at the new future and the new entrepreneur generation, on how to develop this new entrepreneurial generation. And it's going to involve also students from different universities, from 8 different universities, on how they're doing it. I'm still leaving the open lecture quiz open for a while. And if Andre and Silvio have some questions or some answers, please, you are free to say that.
I have a comment about the results, but I will wait until the poll closes.
Please. No, don't disclose the results yet. So I will just say that the first question looks at what are the characteristics of open source software. And the second question looks at what is open data, what you can do with open data. The questions are in the quiz. The quiz is open. If you are on your mobile phone, please go in your quiz. If not, please look, because it might have opened in a separate window in your desktop and also in your phone. And please answer to them if you want to answer. They're here in Zoom. Only participants in Zoom can answer to the questions, and they're relating to the information which was shared between us. And then obviously at the end we will show which are the correct answers to this questionnaire and how it was. I will still leave it a tiny bit open. Only 65%, 65 of the participants have answered out of the 120 which are in Zoom. So I will kindly ask you to answer still more, because that's depending on your certificate at the end. If not, I will close it quite soon. We promise 5 minutes. It's already almost 6 minutes since we opened the quiz. So I will kindly ask everybody to answer to the quiz. The quiz is looking at open source software and at open data. People keep asking where are the questions. The questions are in Zoom. Here in the quiz, you need to be able to see them. Either on your mobile, go to the quiz part. You need to swipe to the other screen. Or you have a quiz button probably on the top screen, depending on your...
I think it's called polls.
Polls or quiz, yeah. And if not, if you're on your desktop, then look, maybe it's a new window which was open on your screen where the questions are for you to answer. We already have several questions answered. I'm trying to see if everybody can answer to them. So I will still wait for another 30 seconds for everybody to answer, and then I will close the quiz. And you will be able to, we will be able to see the answers and also to evaluate the results and tell you which are the correct answers. The first question look at open source software, and the second question look at open data. Okay, so let's see. I will close now the questions. And I will be able also to share the results. So you are able to see them. And the first question was open source software is always free to use, always secure and safe, accessible for inspection of its code, and protected by an open license. And correct answers are accessible for inspection of its code and protected by an open license.
Diana,
open data.
Sorry,
Yes.
we don't see the results. I don't know about the
Sorry.
others.
Do you see now the correct answers, please?
Yes, I see now a notification regarding the correct answers, but not the numbers, the percentages next to each other.
Yeah, you are not supposed to see that. That's only for me. I'm only showing the results and the correct answers. And then is the open data, which can be reshared, can be used commercially, cannot be modified, must be attributed, and the correct answer are can be reshared and can be used commercially. So these are the correct answers, and thank you very much for everybody. I stop now the share of it. So I will be able to show you this quite soon. I just want to save the results. Apologies for some mistakes now. So thank you very much, everybody. Please join us for the third series of the open lecture. In 2 weeks from now, you will all receive the invitation. Thank you very much, Andrei Ternauchuk, and thank you very much, Silviu Vert, for your open lectures, for your presentation about open technologies, open data, and open science. And thank you, everybody.